What are grimoires? Grimoires in Black Clover are, in the most layman's of terms, spellbooks. Every mage has a grimoire unique to them. Although mages may have the same or similar attributes, the application of spells seem to further define the mage as an individual. But is the grimoire's overall purpose and origin limited to just being used by a mage? Black Clover has been running for quite some time now, and we still know very little about grimoires. So much is still in question. How does a grimoire choose their mage? Is it personality? Is it predestined? What is the full life cycle of a grimoire? Do they all die when the mages they belong to die? Or do they revive once another worthy mage has appeared? What about Revchi? It's clear that he seems to know how to bypass the fact that grimoires are supposed to die when its mage dies. But how is he working for a black market that collects separated grimoires? So many questions! And, well, that's why you're here, right? So welcome to yet another hashtag Crackhead Jack Theory. Roll it!
I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Pull up, say what's the deal, bruh? See how I lose my cool any second if they don't hear us. Many people will fear us. Say when you look in the mirror, don't you compare us to anything that get embarrassed. Ha, ha, woo. So many people be talking like they want the problems or something. I noticed that all of you polish and all of you people get punished. It's hard to keep food on your stomach, to all of the hustle keep running. That's hard to stay humble with nothing. We're off of the jungle, we're bugging. So let me come down all of a sudden. I told you that we keep it buzzing. Ha, woo. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out. Bounce. I ain't feeling nothing cause I'm numbed out.
Yo, it's your boy, Jack OATz, the GOAT. You either know or you don't. Before we get into any of the spice pertaining to the grimoires, I'd appreciate it if you took the time to check out my Twitter page, where right now I'm actually running a My Hero Academia tournament where you'll be facing off against other people who have created their own quirks. You can create your own too and participate. So if that sounds good and interesting to you, go ahead and give me a follow and hop right in. So I know this is not a format I've done since, well, my first video, but I honestly just feel so bad that I've had you guys staring at my ugly face in front of a white wall. My condo is just so awkwardly designed, it's hard to find a good spot to film without moving a ton of crap. So until I figure it out, I'll be doing this a bit more. I'll also be doing reviews in person though, because we gotta get hyped over that together. Alright, so grimoires. What are they good for, am I right? Well, according to gathered info from a compilation of a variety of ancient texts regarding usage of grimoires, they are typically known for including instructions on how to create magical objects like talismans and amulets, also how to perform magical spells, charms, divinations, and how to summon or invoke supernatural entities such as angels, spirits, deities, and demons. This is an all-inclusive list that does not describe how all cultures regarded grimoires. Some cultures believe that grimoires only summon spirits, angels, and demons, while others believe they were only used for spells, charms, and even curses. Funny thing is, we have a little bit of everything in Black Clover. Spells are common. We've seen a few mages who invoke curses upon their targets too. We have mages whose grimoire allows them to summon the dead, a giant wolf, Fenrir. Fenrir. And though it's not widely discussed, William's magic lies on the spiritual side of things, as the Tree of Yggdrasil has heavy ties in Norse mythology as the focal point of all things happening, spanning over 9 or so different realms. We haven't really seen demons being summoned from a grimoire yet. The closest we have is, of course, our boy Asta. However, it is just the AMD's magic, or, non-magic. Anywho, As your local crackhead theorist, I find it difficult to accept that we know all there is to know about Grimoires and Black Clover. Almost everything we know about Grimoires has been discredited in this series in one way or another. To start, let's talk about the life cycle of a Grimoire. We know that mages attend a ceremony upon the age of 14 to be chosen by a Grimoire that they will have for the rest of their natural lives, which no other mage can use even if they manage to steal it from another mage. We also know that the Grimoires disappear once its mages died. However, in the very beginning, Revchi discredits just about everything I just said. He alludes to working for a black market that collects rare Grimoires. Revchi had been doing this for years. How is he able to bypass the Grimoire not dying when its mage dies? How are people collecting these Grimoires and using them if they really are using them? Lick's Grimoire also did not disappear upon his death. We can probably assume that the AMD was able to prevent that from happening, but this just means that there are rules that can be broken when certain conditions are met. Unfortunately, those are questions that can't be answered until more is revealed in the story, but what we can do is look into the origin of Grimoires and their ultimate purpose. I don't know how many of you have watched Eureka 7, but there was an energy that existed in that world that most everything thrived off of. The energy was being used as a means to collect all kinds of information on the world and the human race. If we take this concept and apply it to the Grimoires, what would it look like? Well, if we look at something that exists in real life, we can start putting some pieces together. In our reality, a book exists that is called The Dragon Rouge. I don't know if that's the exact accent. It looks like it should be, but I mean, it's otherwise known as the Grand Grimoire, or the Book of the Red Dragon. In current times, this book is widely unavailable, and even copies are hard to come by. Copies of half the Grand Grimoire come in at a staggering price of $3,600. From what can be gathered from the Book of the Red Dragon, the first half contains spells or instructions on how to conjure a demon or demons to do their bidding, and more namely, how to summon Lucifer and or Lucifuge Focal via spells and rituals coupled with items. Slight tangent, Lucifuge Focal is in charge of Hell's government by order of Lucifer, meaning he is not Lucifer. There is belief that he could be a part of Lucifer, but for the most part, it is just it's a separate demon that controls the government by order of Lucifer. Now, there are also other demons with names that derive from Lucifer's name, and the rest of their name really depends on their rank and the capacity that they operate at in Hell. I bring that up because we do have a character named Lucifero in the story right now, and it's not Lucifer. So take that with a grain of salt and do what you will with it, but it's a possibility that this is not the Lucifer. But let's get back to what we were saying. The second half of the Grand Grimoire contains ways to summon Lucifer and or Lucifuge without items. However, those methods come at great risk. As to what any of these methods are in specificity, it's really unknown until someone decides to buy it, that is. So here's my Cash App. JK, but really, I wanted to wait to drop this video so I could actually buy the copies of the Grimoire for myself, but as I thought about it more and more, I thought it was highly unlikely that Tabata threw down $3,000 to $6,000 to read the Grand Grimoire just so we can make an accurate reference to it in the series. Now here's where we start going down the rabbit hole. We know that all mages have different types of magic, and if they possess the same attribute, their application of it tends to differ from the other, thus making each mage unique. If we apply the concept that we went over when talking about Eureka 7 and apply it to the Grimoires in Black Clover, mages are being used to acquire new spells and techniques in their Grimoire. The mage will rack up a lifetime of spells and then die. Once the Grimoire dies, it will disappear, but where does it go? I believe the spells from those pages are transferred to a Grand Grimoire somewhere out in the great beyond of the Black Clover universe, where they will be recorded and then sent back to a tower in any given time to be handed to another mage, to then come up with a new lifetime set of spells if possible.
Great theory, crackhead, but Who would own the Grand Grimoire?
Okay, that I don't know for sure. But I don't think the Diamond Kingdom was introduced to us just to be zero-diffed by two people single-handedly. The Diamond Kingdom introduced stitched grimoires, and it was widely overlooked that half of the grimoire that was stitched to the other was made from a dead mage, which means the rules were bypassed yet again. But why are we stitching grimoires together? I believe it is to surely but slowly progress towards creating a forced Grand Grimoire. The only strong horse I have in this particular race is the fact that we only see Xenon standing in front of the Diamond King and not fighting him. Funny how the ones who want to bring demons to Earth had a cliffhanger battle with the Diamond King who was overseeing these experiments. And as I said earlier, the Grand Grimoire contains instructions on how to summon Lucifer and or Lucifuge and control them, so think how beneficial that would be to the Triad if the Diamond King actually does have some knowledge on the matter. This could also lead back to Revchi. We understand that he was stealing grimoires and selling them to people who collected them. Who's to say the Diamond Kingdom wasn't the buyer? Gildray and the Purple Orcas were mostly stationed on the Diamond border, where characters like Xerx, Revchi, and Gildray himself were all conducting shady transactions with Diamond Knights. See, I told you the rabbit hole gets deep. The one who owns the Grand Grimoire will rule all, as they will have almost all magic in the palm of their hands and potentially be able to summon and control Lucifer. Now let's go overtime on the Crackhead Jack theories. What to talk about demons without mentioning Yno's amulet? Now, upon researching the Grand Grimoire, each piece of evidence leads to the amulet or seal of Solomon. The purpose of Solomon's amulet was to grant the wielder of it the ability to conjure and control demons. I understand that the seal looks nothing like Yno's amulet, and this is where it gets kind of tricky interpreting and predicting Tabata's work. Tabata, for the most part, tends to draw directly from Norse and Kabbalistic lore. The Seal of Solomon more closely resembles the Star of David in the Jewish culture, which looks to be your standard array, which is interesting because those seals were used almost exactly how rune magic is described to work. Each seal has to have specific instructions written into it as to how you want it to operate. But I'm getting off track. Let's analyze Yno's amulet. Remember in the Elfark, in the Shadow Palace, it was the piece that's purpose was to connect their world to the underworld, meaning it summoned a demon. Now, let's go back to where I told you guys that the first half of the Grand Grimoire contains instructions on how to summon a demon with tools, and the second half contains instructions on how to summon a demon without tools at a much higher risk, the risk being no control over the demon being summoned. There's a potential that Yno's amulet functions the same as the Amulet of Solomon, and without the proper instruction, this could be a great problem that Yno and the world at large would have to face. But if the amulet were to fall into the wrong hands with someone who has the proper instructions on summoning a demon, or even Lucifer himself, that could be the end as we know it.
Don't want to ruin everyone's good time.
Well, damn. That's all I got for now. Doing research on this made me realize there are a lot more rabbit holes. In one of my next videos, I'll be talking about the AMD and Demon Licks and their connection. If you saw my post on Twitter, you probably already know where I'm going with this, but there is a bit more to it. Be on the lookout for that, as well as a chapter review on the latest chapter of Black Clover. Leaks will be dropping soon. And the latest chapter of My Hero Academia. Thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, please consider throwing a like on the video. This was not easy to put together. Also subscribe, or don't. You know what? Don't do either of those things. Just unsubscribe and dislike this video. Follow me on Twitter, or don't. Fine, see if I care. Anyway, this has been OATz to go. You either know or you don't.